Maya sat in her old Honda, gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles had turned white. The parking lot of the wellness center stretched out in front of her, but she couldn't bring herself to get out of the car. Not yet. Her phone buzzed, with another message from her sister asking how the therapy thing went. Maya hadn't even gone inside yet. She'd been sitting here for 20 minutes, watching people walk in and out of the building like it was the most normal thing in the world. Tears started again, hot and angry this time. She was so tired of crying. At 34, she felt like she'd cried enough tears to fill a swimming pool. And what did she have to show for it? Nothing but puffy eyes and the same crushing loneliness that followed her everywhere. "What's wrong? With me?" she whispered to her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman staring back looked exhausted. Dark circles under brown eyes that used to sparkle with hope. Hair that she'd stopped caring about months ago. When was the last time she'd felt pretty? Really pretty. Not just good enough for now, pretty. The latest disaster had been 3 weeks ago. David. She'd thought David might be different. He seemed interested at first, texting her good morning messages and actually listening when she talked. They'd been dating for 2 months when she finally felt comfortable enough to open up about her anxiety, about the panic attacks that sometimes hit her out of nowhere. His face had changed completely. Like someone had flipped a switch and all, the warmth just disappeared. "Look, Maya," he'd said, not even looking at her anymore. "I think you need to work on yourself first. I can't handle this kind of baggage. I need someone more stable." Baggage. That's what her feelings were to him. Baggage. Before David, there had been Kevin, who told her she was too much when she got emotional during a movie. Before Kevin, there was Ryan, who said she was clingy because she liked to text during the day. And before that, a string of men who all seemed to have the same message. There was something fundamentally wrong with her. Maya pulled down the sun visor and looked at herself again. What did they see that made them all run away? She wasn't asking for the moon, she just wanted someone to care about her feelings. Someone who wouldn't disappear when things got a little complicated. Her phone rang, making her jump. It was her best friend Lisa. "Hey, did you make it to the appointment?" Lisa's voice was gentle but worried. "I'm in the parking lot," Maya admitted. "That's a start. You don't have to be perfect at this, you know. Just go in." What if she thinks I'm crazy, too? What if even the therapist can't help me? There was a pause. Lisa had been patient through all of Maya's relationship disasters, through all the 2 a.m. phone calls and the endless analyzing of text messages that never came. "Maya, listen to me. You are not crazy. You're hurt. There's a big difference." After they hung up, Maya sat in silence for a few more minutes. The building in front of her looked normal enough. Just a regular office building with a small sign that read, "Mountain View Counseling Services." Nothing scary about it, but walking through those doors felt like admitting defeat, like saying out loud that she was too broken to figure this out on her own. She thought about her childhood, growing up with parents who were always too busy or too stressed to really pay attention to her feelings. "Don't be so sensitive, Maya," her mother used to say. "The world doesn't revolve around your emotions." Maybe that was true. Maybe she was just too sensitive for this world. Her grandmother had been different, though. Grandma Rose used to tell her that having a big heart wasn't a weakness, it was a gift. But Grandma Rose had been gone for 10 years now, and Maya was starting to think maybe everyone else was right. A woman walked past her car, heading into the building. She looked normal, happy even. Maybe therapy worked for some people. Maybe. Maya was just beyond help. She pulled out her phone and Googled the therapist's name again. Dr. Carmen Valdez. The reviews were good. Really good, actually. People talked about feeling truly heard and finally understood. One review said, "Dr. Valdez helped me realize that my past doesn't have to control my future." Maya wanted to believe that was possible. She took a deep breath and grabbed her purse. Her hands were shaking, but she managed to get out of the car. Each step toward the building felt huge, like she was climbing a mountain instead of just walking across a parking lot. The lobby was quiet and peaceful, with soft music playing and the smell of lavender in the air. A receptionist with kind eyes smiled at her. "You must be Maya. Dr. Valdez is ready for you." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. As she followed the receptionist down a short hallway, she wondered if this was what rock bottom felt like, if you had to completely fall apart before you could start putting yourself back together. The door to Dr. Valdez's office was open, and Maya could see a woman with silver-streaked hair and warm brown eyes standing up to greet her. She looked like someone's favorite aunt, the kind of person who always had cookies in the kitchen and time to listen to your problems. "Maya," the woman said, extending her hand. "I'm Dr. Valdez, but you can call me Carmen if you'd like. I'm so glad you're here." There was something in her voice that made Maya's throat tight with emotion again. It wasn't pity or professional politeness. It sounded like genuine warmth, like she really was glad Maya had shown up. Maya stepped into the office and looked around. It was cozy, with soft lighting and comfortable chairs. Books lined the walls and there were plants everywhere. It felt safe. "I don't know where to start," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. Carmen smiled and gestured to a chair. "That's okay. We have plenty of time. Why don't you start by telling me what brought you here today?" Maya sat down and felt the first real glimmer of hope she'd had in months. Maybe this was where her story would finally start to change. "I'm tired," she said simply. "I'm tired of feeling like I'm not enough for anyone. I'm tired of men leaving me because they think I'm too broken to love." Carmen nodded, her expression serious but not judgmental. "That sounds incredibly painful. No wonder you're exhausted." For the first time in years, Maya felt like someone was really listening, not waiting for their turn to talk, not trying to fix her or tell her what she was doing wrong. Just listening. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something better. The tissue box sat between them on the small table, and Maya had already used half of it. She kept apologizing for crying, but Carmen just smiled and said, "Tears are welcome here. They're part of healing." "I feel so stupid," Maya said, wiping her nose for the 10th time. "I'm a grown woman crying about boys like I'm in high school." Carmen leaned forward slightly. "Maya, you're not crying about boys. You're crying about years of being told your feelings don't matter. That's very different." Something about the way she said it made Maya look up. There was understanding in Carmen's eyes that went deeper than professional training. It was the look of someone who had been where Maya was sitting. "Can I tell you something?" Carmen asked. "When I first started therapy myself, I spent most of the first session apologizing for taking up space. Literally apologizing for sitting in the chair I was paying to sit in." Maya blinked in surprise. "You went to therapy?" "Oh yes, years of it. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair today if I hadn't." Carmen's voice was matter-of-fact, like she was talking about the weather. "I spent 12 years married to a man who convinced me that I was the problem in every fight, every disappointment, every moment of unhappiness in our marriage." Maya felt her chest tighten. "What happened?" "I believed him. For a very long time, I believed that if I could just be better, quieter, more agreeable, then he would love me the way I needed to be loved. But the goalposts kept moving. Nothing I did was ever enough." Maya nodded, recognizing the feeling immediately. "That's exactly how it feels. Like I'm always auditioning for love, but I never get the part." "That's a beautiful way to put it," Carmen said. "And it's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to be someone else's idea of perfect instead of just being yourself." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Maya looked around the office again, taking in details she'd missed before. There was a small painting of a woman dancing, her arms thrown wide like she didn't care who was watching. On Carmen's desk was a photo of her with a golden retriever, both of them grinning at the camera. "How did you know?" Maya asked quietly. "How did you know you deserved better?" Carmen's expression grew thoughtful. "It wasn't one big moment. It was a lot of small ones. Like the day I realized I was afraid to laugh too loud in my own house because it might annoy him, or when I caught myself apologizing for buying the wrong brand of coffee, as if that was some kind of moral failing." Maya felt a chill of recognition. She remembered doing the exact same things with David, with Kevin, with all of them. Always. Walking on eggshells, always monitoring her own reactions to make sure she wasn't being too much. But the real turning point, Carmen continued, was when my therapist asked me a simple question. She said, "If your best friend told you her partner treated her the way yours treats you, what would you tell her?" Maya thought about Lisa, about how fiercely protective she was of the people she loved. I'd tell her to run. Exactly. We give better advice to our friends than we give to ourselves. We have more compassion for strangers than we have for the person in the mirror. Maya felt tears starting again, but these felt different somehow. Less desperate, more like relief. "I don't even know who I am anymore," she admitted. "I've spent so many years trying to be what other people wanted that I forgot what I actually want." "That's okay," Carmen said gently. "We can figure that out together. But first, I want you to try something with me." Maya nodded, willing to try anything at this point. "I want you to imagine that your best friend Lisa is sitting in this chair instead of you. She's telling you about a man who called her too much for having feelings. What would you say to her?" Maya didn't even have to think about it. "I'd say, he's an idiot. Lisa is amazing. Any guy would be lucky to have someone who cares as much as she does. And if she told you that man said she had too much baggage, I'd say that's his loss. Everyone has a history. That doesn't make them damaged." "Goods," Carmen smiled. "Now why do you think those things are true for Lisa but not for you?" The question hit Maya like a physical blow. She opened her mouth to answer and realized she didn't have one. Not a good one anyway. I don't know," she whispered. "Maya, you just described someone who is caring, loyal, and emotionally intelligent. Someone who has been through difficult things but hasn't let them make her bitter or closed off. That person you described? That's you." Maya shook her head. "But they all left. They all said I was too much. They did. And I'm not going to tell you that didn't hurt or that it doesn't matter. But Maya, have you considered that maybe you weren't too much for the right person? Maybe you were just exactly enough for the wrong people?" The words hung in the air between them. Maya had never thought about it that way before. "My ex-husband used to tell me that no one would ever love me like he did," Carmen said. "He meant it as a romantic gesture, but what he was really saying was that no one else would tolerate me. And you know what? He was right. No one else would love me like he did because he didn't actually love me at all. He loved the idea of having someone small enough to control." Maya felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening that had been locked for years. "The man I'm with now," Carmen continued, "loves me completely differently. He loves my loud laugh. He brings me coffee when I'm working late and doesn't expect me to be grateful for basic kindness. He thinks my emotions are one of my best qualities, not something that needs to be managed or fixed." "How did you find him?" "I didn't. Not at first. First I had to learn to like myself. Because Maya, here's the thing nobody tells you. You can't receive love that you don't think you deserve. Even if the perfect person showed up tomorrow, if you don't believe you're worthy of love, you won't recognize it when it's right in front of you." Maya sat back in her chair feeling overwhelmed, but not in a bad way. It was like Carmen had taken all the jumbled thoughts in her head and organized them into something that made sense. "So what do I do now?" she asked. "Now we start the real work. We figure out where these beliefs about yourself came from and we start replacing them with the truth. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be fast. But Maya, I want you to know something." Carmen's voice became very serious, and she waited until Maya was looking directly at her. "In the hour we've been talking, you've shown me more emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and strength than some people develop in a lifetime. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're a woman who has been convinced that her greatest strengths are weaknesses, and we're going to change that story." For the first time in months, Maya smiled a real smile. Not the fake one she wore at work or the hopeful one she used on dates. A real one. "I'd like that," she said. "Good. Then I'll see you next week and we'll keep going." As Maya walked back to her car, she felt lighter somehow. The parking lot looked the same. Her car looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, she was looking forward to tomorrow. 3 months into therapy, Maya was learning things about herself that surprised her every day, like how she had been holding her breath in conversations without realizing it, or how she automatically made herself smaller whenever she entered a room. It's called fawning, Carmen explained during one of their sessions. When you've learned that your safety depends on other people's approval, your nervous system gets stuck in people-pleasing mode. Maya was sprawled in the comfortable chair she now thought of as hers, a journal open on her lap. Carmen had given it to her after their 4th session, suggesting she write down thoughts and feelings between their meetings. At first, Maya had stared at the blank pages like they were going to judge her. Now she filled several pages a week. I wrote something down that I want to read to you, Maya said, flipping through the journal. If that's okay. Of course. Maya cleared her throat. I went to dinner with my mom last week, and for the first time I noticed how many times she interrupted me. 12 times in an hour. I counted, and every time, I just stopped talking and let her change the subject. I never even tried to finish what I was saying. Carmen nodded encouragingly. How did that feel to notice? Weird, like I was watching someone else's life. I kept thinking, no wonder I feel invisible all the time. I've been training people to not listen to me since I was a kid. This was progress, even though it felt painful. For weeks, Carmen had been helping Maya recognize patterns she'd never seen before. How she apologized before stating opinions. How she asked permission for things that didn't require permission. How she automatically assumed she was wrong whenever there was conflict. Tell me about the EMDR session we did last week, Carmen said. How are you feeling about that? Maya shivered slightly. EMDR therapy was intense, using eye movements to help process traumatic memories. They'd worked on a memory from middle school, when Maya had tried to tell her parents about being bullied and her father had said, maybe if you weren't so sensitive, kids would like you better. It's strange, Maya said slowly. When I think about that memory now, it doesn't feel like it's happening to me. It feels more like something that happened to a little girl who needed protection, not criticism. That's exactly right. You're starting to see that little girl with compassion instead of judgment. They'd been working through a lot of memories, like that. Times when Maya had been told her feelings were wrong or too big. Times when she'd been made to feel like her natural personality was something to be ashamed of. I called my sister yesterday, Maya said, turning a page in her journal. She was telling me about her boyfriend problems, and instead of just listening and agreeing with everything like I usually do, I actually told her when I thought she was being unfair to him. How did that go? Maya laughed, but it wasn't entirely happy. She got mad at me, said I was taking his side and that I didn't understand because I'm single. Carmen's expression sharpened. How did you respond to that? The old me would have apologized immediately and spent the rest of the conversation trying to make her feel better. But I just said, I'm not taking sides. I'm trying to help you see the situation clearly. And then when she kept pushing, I told her I had to go. Maya, that's huge. It felt huge and scary. She didn't call me for 3 days and I kept thinking I'd ruined everything. But then she texted and said she'd thought about what I said, and I was probably right. These small victories were adding up. Maya had started speaking up in work meetings instead of just nodding along. She'd returned a sweater that didn't fit instead of keeping it and feeling guilty about the wasted money. She'd even told her neighbor that no, she couldn't watch his dog for the weekend without any notice just because she was single and probably not busy. But the biggest change was happening inside her head. I did the self-compassion exercise you gave me, Maya said, flipping to another page. The one where you write yourself a letter like you're writing to a friend. How was that? Hard at first. Really hard. I kept wanting to write things like, you're okay, I guess, instead of actually being nice to myself. But once I got going, Maya's voice trailed off. What happened? I cried for like an hour, but good crying if that makes sense. Like I was finally being the friend to myself that I'd always needed. Carmen smiled. Read me some of it if you feel comfortable. Maya found the right page and began reading aloud. Dear Maya, I know you're tired of feeling like you're not enough. I know you're scared that there's something fundamentally wrong with you that makes people leave. But I want you to know that your big heart isn't a flaw. Your deep feelings aren't a burden. The way you love people completely and honestly is beautiful even when they can't appreciate it. Maya's voice wavered slightly, but she kept reading. You deserve someone who lights up when you text them, not someone who makes you feel like you're bothering them. You deserve someone who thinks your laugh is music, not noise. You deserve to be loved exactly as you are, not as who you might become if you just tried harder to be different. When she finished, they sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Maya, that letter could have been written to thousands of women who are sitting where you were sitting 3 months ago. You're not just healing yourself. You're learning to see clearly. Maya was also starting to trust her own instincts again. When a coworker asked her out and something felt off about the way he talked to the receptionist, she didn't ignore the feeling and say yes anyway. When her mother made a comment about Maya letting herself go because she'd gained 5 pounds, Maya didn't immediately start a diet. Instead, she told her mother that comments about her body weren't welcome. I think I'm starting to understand what you meant about boundaries, Maya said. They're not walls to keep people out, they're just guidelines for how I want to be treated. Exactly. And what have you noticed about the people who respect your boundaries versus the people who don't? Maya thought about this. The people who respect them don't make a big deal about it. Like Lisa. When I told her I couldn't be her therapist anymore, and that she needed to find a professional to talk to about her anxiety, she just said okay and thanked me for being honest. And the people who don't respect them? They get angry, they make me feel guilty, they say I'm being selfish or that I've changed. Maya paused. I have changed, haven't I? How do you think you've changed? I think I'm becoming more myself, like the person I was before I learned to be afraid of my own personality. Maya closed her journal and looked directly at Carmen. I'm starting to like who I am. It had taken months of work to get to this point. Sessions where Maya cried so hard she thought she might never stop. Homework assignments that felt impossible, like going to a restaurant alone or taking a dance class just because she wanted to. Slowly learning to notice and challenge the mean voice in her head that sounded suspiciously, like all the people who had made her feel small over the years. There's something else, Maya said, looking a little shy. I've been thinking about dating, again. Not because I'm lonely or because I feel like I need someone to complete me, but because I think I might actually have something good to offer the right person now. Carmen's face lit up. Tell me more about that. Well, I know I'm kind. I know I'm loyal. I know I pay attention to details and remember things that matter to people. I know I'm not perfect, but I'm not broken either. I'm just human. Maya smiled. And I think being human is actually pretty great. Maya, do you remember what you said to me in our first session? You said you were tired of feeling like you weren't enough for anyone. Yeah. Do you still feel that way? Maya considered this carefully. No. I think I'm plenty for the right person, and if someone thinks I'm too much, that tells me more about them than it does about me. Carmen leaned back in her chair with a satisfied expression. Now that, she said, is what healing looks like. Outside the window, Maya could see the first signs of spring. Trees that had looked dead all winter were starting to bud. It seemed like a pretty good metaphor for what was happening in her life. She was blooming too, in ways she'd never expected. 6 months into therapy, Maya found herself looking forward to her Tuesday appointments with Carmen in a way that surprised her. It wasn't just about the healing anymore, though that was still happening. It was something else, something that made her stomach flutter when she walked into the office. Maya tried to push the thought away as she settled into her usual chair. This was therapy, not friendship. Carmen was her doctor, not her buddy. These feelings were probably just transference or whatever it was called when patients got confused about professional relationships. But watching Carmen pour tea from the small kettle she kept in her office, Maya couldn't help noticing things. The way Carmen's silver-streaked hair caught the light. How her laugh lines deepened when she smiled. The gentle way she moved, like she was always mindful of taking up just the right amount of space. You seem different today, Carmen said, handing Maya a cup of chamomile tea. Good different. What's been happening? Maya wrapped her hands around the warm mug, using it as an anchor. I had a date last week. Carmen raised her eyebrows, but her expression was pleased rather than surprised. Tell me about it. His name is Alex. We met at the bookstore. I was in the poetry section, and he made a comment about the book I was holding. Maya smiled at the memory. The old me would have been embarrassed about reading poetry like it was too emotional or pretentious, but I just told him why I liked it. And how did he respond? He asked if I had any recommendations. We ended up talking for an hour about books and art and travel. It felt so natural. Carmen leaned forward slightly. What was different about this compared to other dates you've been on? Maya thought about this. I wasn't performing. I wasn't trying to figure out what kind of woman he wanted me to be. I was just me. And when he asked me out for coffee, I said yes because I genuinely wanted to spend more time with him, not because I was desperate for anyone's attention. That's wonderful, Maya. How did the date go? Really well. We talked about everything. He told me about his work as a teacher, and I told him about my job at the nonprofit. When I mentioned that I volunteer at the animal shelter on weekends, his whole face lit up. He said he'd always wanted to do something like that but never knew where to start. Maya paused, remembering something else. And Carmen, when I got a little emotional talking about some of the animals we've had to put down, he didn't look uncomfortable or try to change the subject. He just listened and said that caring that much about things was a beautiful quality. Carmen's smile was radiant. Maya, do you hear what you just said? You showed up as your authentic self, including the emotional parts. And he responded with appreciation rather than judgment. I know. It felt like speaking a different language than I've been speaking my whole life. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both sipping their tea. Maya found herself studying Carmen's face, the way she always seemed so present and attentive. Over the months, Maya had learned little things about Carmen's life. She lived alone with her dog, Murphy, who sometimes came to work on slow days. She loved gardening and made most of her own tea blends. She'd grown up in a small town in New Mexico and still went back every Christmas to see her family. Can I ask you something? Maya said suddenly. Of course. How do you do this job every day? Listening to people's pain, helping them through the hardest parts of their lives. Doesn't it wear on you? Carmen set down her teacup and considered the question. It would be dishonest to say it doesn't affect me. But Maya, do you know what I see when I sit across from someone like you? Maya shook her head. I see incredible strength. I see people who have been through things that would break some people, but they're still here, still trying, still believing that life can be better. That's not draining to witness, that's inspiring. Maya felt her cheeks warm. Even when we're crying and complaining and feeling sorry for ourselves? Especially then. Because crying means you haven't given up. Complaining means you believe you deserve better. And feeling sorry for yourself in healthy doses means you have compassion for your own suffering. There was something in Carmen's voice that made Maya look up sharply. Carmen was looking at her with an expression Maya couldn't quite read. Not the professional warmth she was used to, but something deeper. Maya, Carmen said quietly, these past 6 months, watching you discover who you really are, has been one of the greatest privileges of my career. Maya's heart started beating faster. Really? Really? When you walked into my office that first day, you were so convinced that you were fundamentally flawed. But I could see what you couldn't see. Your capacity for love, your emotional intelligence, your strength. It's been like watching someone wake up to their own worth. Maya set down her teacup because her hands were suddenly shaking. Carmen, I need to tell you something, and I hope this doesn't make things weird between us. Carmen nodded encouragingly. I think I have feelings for you. Not just gratitude for helping me, but actual feelings. And I know that's probably inappropriate. And I know you're my therapist, but I needed to be honest because honesty is something I'm learning to value. Maya held her breath, waiting for Carmen to look uncomfortable or professional or disappointed. But Carmen's expression remained soft and understanding. Maya, what you're feeling isn't inappropriate. It's actually quite common and completely understandable. You've experienced something with me that you've never experienced before. Unconditional acceptance and support. It makes sense that your heart would interpret that as romantic love. Maya felt her face fall slightly. Of course. It was just transference. Just her confused brain mixing up therapy with love. But Carmen wasn't finished. However, she continued, I want you to know that spending this time with you has been meaningful for me too. Not in a therapeutic way, but as a person. Your courage, your humor, the way you light up when you talk about things you're passionate about, these are qualities that would draw anyone to you. Maya looked up, confused. I don't understand. Carmen took a deep breath. Maya, our therapeutic relationship has been incredibly important, and I would never want to compromise the work we've done. But our sessions are scheduled to end in a few weeks. You've achieved what you came here to achieve. What are you saying? I'm saying that in a few weeks I won't be your therapist anymore, and when that happens, if you're interested, I'd like to take you to dinner. As Carmen, not as Dr. Valdez. Maya stared at her, hardly believing what she was hearing. You want to date me? I want to get to know you outside of this office. I want to hear more of your stories and share some of mine. I want to see what happens between two people who already know they can be completely honest with each other. Maya felt tears starting, but these were different from all the tears she'd cried in this office. These were tears of joy, of possibility, of a future she'd never imagined. But what if it doesn't work out? What if we're better as therapist and patient? Carmen smiled. Maya, 6 months ago, you were terrified that no one could love the real you. Now you're worried about the logistics of a relationship with someone who already knows exactly who you are and cares about you anyway. Do you see the difference? Maya did see the difference. 6 months ago, she would have been planning how to be perfect for Carmen, how to hide her flaws, and become whoever Carmen wanted her to be. Now she was just wondering if they were compatible, as equals. So we finish our therapeutic work first, Maya said slowly. We finish our therapeutic work first, Carmen agreed. And then we see what happens next. Maya sat back in her chair, feeling like the world had suddenly become full of possibilities she'd never even dreamed of. Carmen? Yes? I think I'm ready to find out who I am outside of therapy too. Carmen's smile was the brightest thing Maya had ever seen. I can't wait to meet her. For the first time in her life, Maya couldn't wait either. She was finally ready to be known, completely and honestly, by someone who had already seen her at her most vulnerable and chosen to stay. It felt like the beginning of everything. Maya stood in front of her bedroom mirror, smoothing down a blue dress she'd bought specifically for this evening. It was their third date since her therapy had officially ended 2 months ago, but tonight felt different, more significant somehow. The first date had been surreal. Sitting across from Carmen at a small Italian restaurant, Maya kept forgetting this wasn't a therapy session. When Carmen ordered wine, Maya had laughed out loud. What's funny? Carmen had asked. I just realized I've never seen you drink anything but herbal tea. You're like a real person with real person habits. Carmen had grinned. I also eat ice cream straight from the container and sing off-key in the shower. Very real person behavior. That first date had been about discovery, learning that Carmen loved old movies and terrible reality TV in equal measure, finding out that she'd wanted to be a dancer before she became a therapist, hearing about her disastrous attempt at learning to play guitar during the pandemic. The second date had been more relaxed. They'd gone hiking with Murphy, Carmen's golden retriever, and Maya had watched Carmen's face light up as she talked about the trail they were walking and the history of the area. Maya had shared stories about her volunteer work at the animal shelter, and Carmen had listened with the same focused attention she'd always given Maya, but without the clinical distance. You know what I love about this? Carmen had said as they sat by a small creek, Murphy splashing happily in the water. What? I get to learn things about you that have nothing to do with healing or growth, like the fact that you know every dog's name at the shelter and you always pack too many snacks for hikes. Maya had blushed. I like to be prepared. I know. It's adorable. Tonight was different, though. Tonight, Carmen was cooking dinner for Maya at her house. It felt intimate in a way their previous dates hadn't, more like what Maya imagined real couples did. Real couples. The phrase still felt strange in her head. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "How are you feeling about tonight? Also, I still can't believe you're dating your therapist. It's like something out of a romance novel." Maya typed back, "Former therapist, and I'm nervous but good nervous." "Good nervous is the best kind. Go get her, Tiger." Maya smiled at her phone. Lisa had been skeptical at first, worried about the ethics and power dynamics of the relationship. But after meeting Carmen at a coffee shop last week, she'd pulled Maya aside. "Okay, I get it now," Lisa had said. "The way she looks at you, Maya, that woman is completely gone for you." "What do you mean?" "I mean she lights up when you talk. She remembers every little thing you say. And when you got up to use the bathroom, she spent 5 minutes telling me how proud she is of your growth and how lucky she feels to know you. That's not therapist talk, Maya. That's woman in love talk." Now, standing in front of her mirror, Maya tried to quiet the familiar voice that wanted to catalog everything that could go wrong. What if she said something stupid? What if Carmen realized she'd made a mistake? What if Maya was still too much even for someone who had seen her at her worst? But then she remembered something Carmen had told her during their last official therapy session. "Maya, you've spent your whole life trying to earn love by being perfect. But love isn't something you earn. It's something you receive and give freely. The right person won't love you because you never make mistakes. They'll love you because of who you are, mistakes included." Maya took a deep breath and grabbed her car keys. Tonight wasn't about being perfect. Tonight was about being herself, with someone who already knew exactly who that was. Carmen's house was a small craftsman bungalow with a garden full of herbs and wildflowers. Murphy greeted Maya at the door with his usual enthusiasm, tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. "He's missed you," Carmen said, appearing in the doorway wearing jeans and a soft green sweater that made her eyes look luminous. Her hair was down instead of in its usual professional bun, and she looked younger, more relaxed. "I missed him too," Maya said, scratching behind Murphy's ears. "And I missed you." Carmen's smile could have powered the whole neighborhood. "Come on, dinner's almost ready. I hope you're hungry." The house was exactly what Maya had imagined. Warm and cozy, with books everywhere and plants in every window. The kitchen smelled incredible, like garlic and fresh herbs and something baking in the oven. "What are you making?" Maya asked, accepting a glass of wine. "Lasagna. My grandmother's recipe. Fair warning, I may have gotten a little ambitious. I also made bread and salad and this tiramisu thing that may or may not be a disaster." Maya laughed. "Carmen, you didn't have to do all that." "I wanted to. I like taking care of people I care about." The way she said it, so simple and direct, made Maya's heart skip. During all their therapy sessions, Carmen had been caring in a professional way. This was different. This was personal. They ate dinner at Carmen's small dining table, candles flickering between them. The conversation flowed easily, jumping from Maya's latest drama at work to Carmen's plans for her garden, to a debate about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. "I have a confession," Carmen said as she served the tiramisu, which had turned out perfectly. "I was nervous about tonight." "You were? Why?" Carmen sat back down, suddenly looking shy. "Because I've been thinking about this moment for months. Even when we were still in therapy, there were times when you'd laugh at something I said and I'd think, I wish I could make her laugh like that outside of this office." Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. "Really? Really?" "Maya, I've been a therapist for 15 years. I've helped a lot of people, and I care about all of them. But with you..." Carmen paused, searching for words. "With you, it was different from the beginning. Your courage, your humor, the way you fought so hard to see yourself clearly. I admired you as much as I wanted to help you." Maya reached across the table and took Carmen's hand. "I need you to know something. These feelings I have for you, they're not because you helped me or because I'm grateful. They're because of who you are. The way you listen like every word matters. How you're gentle without being condescending. The way you see the best in people even when they can't see it themselves. Carmen turned her hand palm up and intertwined their fingers. Maya, do you remember what you told me in our first session? You said you were tired of feeling like you weren't enough for anyone. Yeah. I want you to know something. You're not just enough. You're everything I didn't know I was looking for. Maya felt tears start, but they were the good kind. The kind that came from feeling completely seen and accepted. Carmen, I'm scared, she admitted. Not of you, but of how much I care about you. I've never felt anything like this before. It's so different from all those relationships where I was trying to convince someone to love me. How is it different? With you, I don't have to convince you of anything. You already know all my worst qualities and you're still here. It's like the difference between performing a song and singing just because you love the music. Carmen squeezed her hand. Maya, what if I told you that your worst qualities are some of the things I love most about you? What do you mean? You're sensitive, which means you notice when people are hurting and you care enough to help. You're emotional, which means you experience life fully instead of just going through the motions. You're intense, which means when you love someone, they never have to wonder where they stand. Maya wiped her eyes with her free hand. I spent so many years thinking those things were wrong with me. They're not wrong. They were just wrong for the wrong people. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands still linked across the table. Murphy had settled at Maya's feet, content to be near his two favorite humans. So what happens now? Maya asked. Carmen smiled. Now we see what happens when two people who already know each other's secrets decide to build something together. Are you sure you're ready for that? I mean, you've seen me at my absolute worst. You know exactly how messy I can be. Maya, do you know what I see when I look at you? What? I see a woman who has been through hell and came out kinder instead of bitter. I see someone who loves so completely that she's willing to risk getting hurt again. I see someone who makes me want to be the best version of myself. Carmen stood up and walked around the table, extending her hand to Maya. I see someone I'm already falling in love with. Maya took her hand and stood up, feeling like her heart might burst from happiness. Carmen, I think I'm already there. Carmen cupped Maya's face in her hands, thumbs gently brushing away the tears still clinging to her cheeks. Maya Rodriguez, she said softly, would you like to stay the night? Not for any reason other than I don't want this evening to end. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. As Carmen led her upstairs, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. All the nights she'd cried herself to sleep thinking she was unlovable. All the relationships where she'd twisted herself into knots trying to be good enough. All the years of believing that her heart was too big for this world. She'd been wrong about all of it. Her heart wasn't too big. She'd just been offering it to people with hands too small to hold it. But Carmen's hands were just the right size. And for the first time in her life, Maya knew what it felt like to be loved, not despite who she was, but because of it.